about how to explain why I was so eager to preach on Someday at Christmas. So there is one way to think of Christmas as being ours. Christmas is ours. We are church people. We come to church. We attend worship together. Christmas, therefore, is ours. That is a way that I have, at times, found myself thinking when I walk through Costco in early October and see Christmas up already, and I think Christmas is ours, not Costco's. Christmas belongs to us, church people, who mark the liturgical year appropriately and recognize that this is the fourth day of Christmas. But there is another way of thinking of Christmas, and that is that Christmas is everyone's. Christmas does not belong to us. Christmas has come through Jesus Christ, who came for all, including Costco. So, thinking about Christmas as cultural, Christmas as having broken out of these walls, Christmas as having infiltrated everything that is Americana. One way to find a gift in that is to think of songs. For me, at least, I think of songs that are not technically Christmas hymns, but that have spoken to people across decades who are looking for a Prince of Peace. The song that keeps coming back to my mind each year as I think about hearing the Christ child in Kroger or Harris Teeter or Trader Joe's or Nordstrom's is Stevie Wonder's iconic Someday at Christmas. Christmas belongs to people, and a Jewish songwriter named Ron Miller, who was born in 1932, wrote this song, Someday at Christmas, that then Stevie Wonder, who was born in 1950 in Michigan, made iconic. Someday at Christmas came out in 1966. Stevie Wonder was 16 years old. So Ron Miller wrote these lyrics. So a Jewish songwriter from Chicago wrote these song lyrics. Someday at Christmas, men won't be boys, playing with bombs like kids play with toys. One warm December, our hearts will see a world where men are free. Someday at Christmas, there'll be no wars. When we have learned what Christmas is for, when we have found what life's really worth, there'll be peace on earth. Someday all our dreams will come to be, someday in a world where men are free, maybe not in time for you and me, but someday at Christmas time. Someday at Christmas, we'll see a land with no hungry children, no empty hand. One happy morning, people will share our world where people care. Someday at Christmas, there'll be no tears. All men are equal and no men have fears. One shining moment, one prayer away from our world today. Someday at Christmas, man will not fail. Hate will be gone and love will prevail. Someday, a new world that we can start with hope in every heart. Ron Miller also wrote, this Jewish songwriter from Chicago also wrote another song made iconic by an African-American singer named Stevie Wonder, and that is Heaven Help Us All. Heaven Help Us All came out in 1970. So 1966, 1970, Stevie Wonder is 20 years old, and this song comes out during the Vietnam War and the height of the civil rights movement. Heaven help the child who never had a home. Heaven help the girl who walks the streets alone. Heaven help the roses if the bombs begin to fall. Heaven help us all. Heaven help the black man if he struggles one more day. Heaven help the white man if he turns his back away. Heaven help the man who kicks the man who has to crawl. Heaven help us all. Heaven help the boy who won't reach 21. Heaven help the man who gave that boy a gun. Heaven help the people with their backs against the wall. Lord, heaven help us all. Now I lay me down before I go to sleep. In a troubled world, I pray the Lord to keep hatred from the mighty and the mighty from the small. Heaven help us all. So Ron Miller's words, made iconic by young Stevie Wonder during the Vietnam War. How do we hear these words? To celebrate, hope for the baby who ends all wars, the Prince of Peace. There is a story that historians dispute, but that has a truthliness to it, called the Christmas Truce of 1914. How many of you have heard the story of the Christmas Truce of 1914? So it has a truthliness about it. Historians may disagree, and do, about whether or not there were Christmas truces in 1914. We have some record that by 1915, some of the military leaders, some of the mighty, made it clear that there would be no truces at Christmas, but the truthliness of the Christmas truce stories, the truthliness make these myths abide culturally. Because if the Prince of Peace is who we celebrate on the 25th, how can we continue to wage war? There is a truthliness to the myth that is compelling enough that it has become part of a kind of cultural touchstone at Christmas time. So, one way to think about the birth of the Prince of Peace is that the birth of the Prince of Peace renders completely null the idea, the notion, the sort of reality that men were born for war, that men are biologically meant for war. The baby Jesus born of peace means there is no longer any biological determinism. It's a heresy. It's a heresy that boys are born to carry a gun. Some of my colleagues have made the mistake of telling people that I write on toxic masculinity. I do not. If they'd asked any of my students, they could have told you that I do not allow my students to use that phrase. If they use that phrase in class, I tell them we don't use that phrase. For one thing, it's trendy. For another, it suggests that there's something poisonous about being a boy, something poisonous about being a man, that it's toxic to be a boy or a man. This baby boy, this Prince of Peace, is a declaration of hope that no boy is born to wage or carry a war. One of my daughters, she gave me permission to share this. One of my daughters said at Thanksgiving, "Why are all the older people so political right now?" She was noting that at Thanksgiving, everyone over the age of 50 seemed to be wanting to talk about politics during the holidays. And I told her my best answer was that people who are over the age of 50 are looking at the world around us and wondering, how did we get here? My father was about my age. My father is a retired United Methodist minister in Texas. Grew up very Texan. And on 9/11, the day after 9/11 it might have been, he was about my age. I'm 57 now. He was about my age, and I remember we were on the phone, and he said, "I thought we were going to leave a better world for you. I thought we were going to leave a better world for you." He was so heartbroken. It was honestly, at that, when I was the age I was then, I honestly was confused. I thought, "Dad, really? You really thought your generation was going to leave a better world for us?" I was confused by his idealism, that somehow things were going to be better for me and for my children. I don't think of progress as working that way. But now that I'm his age, I find myself thinking, these lyrics from 1966 and 1970, Stevie Wonder, 16 years old, Stevie Wonder, 20 years old, during the Vietnam War, these words, "Someday at Christmas, heaven help us all." Why are we still here waiting? Someday at Christmas. In 1967, Martin Luther King Jr. gave a keynote address at the American Psychological Association. So in between "Someday at Christmas" and "Heaven Help Us All," Martin Luther King Jr. called for the International Association for the Advancement of Creative Maladjustment. Let me repeat that. The International Association for the Advancement of Creative Maladjustment. Abraham Joshua Heschel had used the term prophetic maladjustment in his commentary on the prophets a little bit earlier than this. Hearing Heschel, hearing Martin Luther King Jr. calling in the 1960s for an international association for the advancement of creative maladjustment, I've been thinking about what does it look like to be creatively maladjusted? Well, here is an unlikely candidate, but his name kept coming forth to me as I was thinking about young Stevie Wonder singing Ron Miller's lyrics. So if I asked you for a man who is known for peace, contemporary man known for peace, for singing about peace, who comes from the greater British Isles, anywhere in that area, who would you think of? Contemporary. John Lennon, this man's living. This says so much about this congregation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If I asked a classroom full of Duke Divinity students, I think they would say Paul David Hewson. Paul David Hewson, otherwise known as Bono. I think they would say Bono. Now here's the thing. Bono is not who has been going through my head. This Christmastide, this Advent, this expectation of the Prince of Peace coming, this fourth merry day of Christmas, sing we now of Christmas, in part because when Bono had the chance, standing right next to George Bush in 2006 at the National Prayer Breakfast, Bono standing right next to the President of the United States in 2006, 3 years into the Iraq War, and he doesn't mention a word about the war. He had a bully pulpit, and the man who came out with the album War when I was a teenager did not use it. The name that has been going through my head is George Michael. George Michael in 1998 was arrested in California. He was entrapped, and he was arrested for homosexuality. He was officially arrested for, I think, solicitation or something like that. As soon as he was out of jail, George Michael started planning with his friends a song called Outside. Now, I will tell you, if you look up the video, just know that it's rated PG-13, but as soon as he got out and was out, he started planning this song Outside. That song Outside that came out in 1998, the video ends, it's shot in LA, it's shot in Los Angeles, the Nineveh of the United States. It's shot in Los Angeles, and it ends with this iconic neon sign that's in downtown LA that says, "Jesus saves." George Michael ends his video after he's come out, after he's been outed, with "Jesus saves." Then in July of 2002, George Michael came out with a song y'all probably know about, the Dixie Chicks being taken off the airways for being against war, not just pro-peace, right? Not just putting up a banner that says peace, but actively being against war. You probably know about the Dixie Chicks, but you might not know that George Michael also basically was taken off the airways because he wrote a song, and I'm not going to say the name of the song, you can look up George Michael Anti-War. The song wasn't even released in the United States because it was so brazenly naming that Tony Blair was beholden to George Bush. So brazen in his criticism, naming names, not just singing about peace, but being actively against war. George Michael said in an interview related to these two moments in his life, 1998 and July 2002, these are his words: "I don't think I could be this outspoken if I were worried about my privacy being invaded in the way it was years ago. There's nothing left of it now," he said, "nothing left of his privacy now. So what have I got to lose, really? What have I got to lose?" That's creative maladjustment. Is it quixotic to sing someday at Christmas there'll be no wars? Is it quixotic and unrealistic to expect the Prince of Peace to break in our world, in this empire that is the United States? Yes. Yes, it is. And may it be so. May we be so maladjusted. Our carol is, O Little Town of Bethlehem.